All right. All right, guys. As you can see, what I have here is a pair of Wesco engineers. This is the 1939 model. This is the Boss boot, basically, with the makeup such as the leather, the soles, the stitching, and the labels here, the tags here, all originating from the 1939 work boot era that Wesco was so passionate about making. Okay, so this is a black horsehide. As you know, with most black horsehides, it's not dyed all the way through, so there's a really striking contrast there with the undyed portion, the natural colored portion, if you will, and then there's the top layer that is dyed, in this case black. Horsehide is usually pretty pliable, not too tough to break in. And then we have the green soles, which, come on now, they set them apart from any other engineer boot leaving factories at this point in time, 2020. So yeah, this is one boot that I wanted for quite a long time. I'd say about a year now. These were initially released in 2018 for the 100-year anniversary of Wesco Shoe Co. This is, I believe, a 10-inch tall shaft engineer boot. Now they do have the single row of stitching. I prefer to see a double row of stitch because I think that adds to the vintage look, if you will. But it does have triple stitching throughout, and it does have the incredible V stitching, quad row stitching of the back strap here with the integrated pull loop. Another very useful part of this particular engineer boot construction. So let's see here. Brass hardware, pretty standard length straps. Wesco does give you the option on your custom build to add an extra 2 or 3 inches to your strap. Now the black boot, brass hardware, green sole, that combination right there is the reason I was gravitated toward these from the first time I saw them. Now I didn't grab any this was not a pre-order boot that I grabbed. This actually I found on the discount page through Wesco, on the site, Wesco's site, their discount section. And then if you go to the discount section, you can type in your smallest boot size to your biggest boot size to kind of narrow that down, the sizing criteria. And I found these. Normally I wear 11D to 11.5D. These were actually 11E. And being that it was on the smaller side of my sizing spectrum, I decided to give it a try, and I am so pleased and so happy that I picked this size because they fit incredibly well for my foot. Now you gotta admit the foot is an oddly shaped. The anatomy of the foot is it's an odd shape. So finding the right size boot, or a boot that fits your foot right off the bat, that's always a bonus. A lot of boots, they'll be technically your right size, but whether it's the construction, the type of leather it is, sometimes the breaking can be a pain. And I know because I've been there a few times. However, these fit me perfect. 11 to 11.5D. These were 11E, and they fit me. They basically fit me as in 11D that were already broken in. Basically, that's how they fit. So Hopefully that doesn't mean that they'll break in to be extremely loose, because they're still pretty tight. So I don't think that'll be the case. So okay, I found these on the discount section, and the reason they were in the discount section, as you can see, I mean, everything is stitching. Everything looks very the build's very symmetrical, left foot to right foot. But there is some cutting along the bottom of the vamp. Somebody made a boo-boo and accidentally scored a line through the bottom of both vamps, all the way the same distance that the stitching goes around. And so, I mean, it's a bummer, but when you get an incredible looking boot like this, a boot that I've wanted for such a long time for half price, yeah, I'll give it a try. So, okay, so I spoke to Chris. He is sales manager. He runs the social media for Wesco. He runs social media. He runs marketing, designing releases. So I'm sure he's probably the guy that handles all the collaborating between Wesco and the other brands, such as Standard and Strange, such as Black Bear, just to name a few. These are really good brands that Wesco, decided that they could, collaborate with, design a boot together. This isn't one of those collaborations, although I do have one of their collaborations, which is the Van Cleef release, which is with Standard and Strange. These are the natural veg tan leather. I'll probably put a video in from them. They're pretty beat up right now, but I love it. So I was talking with Chris, and he's been with Wesco for about 19 years now. Started on the factory floor and worked his way up to sales manager after he got his degree in, I'm thinking, business management from Portland State or Oregon State. I think Portland State, he said. So Chris is a really nice guy, very good guy. Let me check real quick. Yep. Really good guy here for Wesco. Great at communicating. More than happy to answer any of your questions. I had a question about these, and he responded via email, not through social media, but via email. He responded in a matter of hours, which is pretty good. Anything greater than a day, like getting an email back the same day, that's incredible. So happy. And then I started to speak with him via Instagram messaging, and I told him, I said, I love these boots. I want to make a YouTube video about them. Can you please tell me a little bit about them, something interesting that the viewers might appreciate learning from them. And so he told me that, okay, being that this is the 1939 boot, so this was the design that they used. The welders that worked on the port of Portland, Oregon, this was their design boot. Like, this was the boot that all of them wore. Okay, so imagine 1939. They didn't have Instagram. They didn't have 100 boots to choose from. So this was the goat. This was their design. Now, was it 90? It's about 90 years later, 91 years later. They're still making this boot, which says a lot about the brand. That they still have the same machinery, still have the same construction methods. That's pretty cool. They got to have that shit down packed by now, right? So the labeling here, Chris told me that these labels are dead stock from the 40s. So these were sitting in the owner's office. He found them, and remember, now Chris is he's designing these releases. So what a better way to integrate these dead stock labels in the 100-year anniversary boot release. Pretty cool. Good job, Chris. So very nice. Anytime you have a pair of these with that, it says Wesco wear. Oh crap! I don't even know if you guys can see. It says Wesco Comfort, wear, style, price. Nailed sole, West Coast Shoe Company, Scappoose, Oregon. I think that's how you say it. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, so anytime you have that label on your boot that was made, you know, in this era, the 21st century, you have a piece of history, you know, in the form of boots. So that's pretty sick. Now, let's see. The green sole is made by Dr. Sole, and he's out of China. He's a very well-known cobbler. He does incredible work, and he also makes his own soles. And Wesco uses his soles in quite a few of their releases and designs. So, yeah, I'm glad I found him. This green sole, it sets him apart for sure. The Mr. Loos are a beautiful black boot, and I think they're horsehide as well, but they don't have that green sole. And they have these have more of a bump toe here, whereas the Mr. Loos and my Van Cleefs, well, the Van Cleefs are unstructured. I'm not sure if the Mr. Loos are unstructured, but it has a more of a tapered, a much narrower Western style toe shape, toe box. So, yeah, man. Just wanted to give you a quick. Oh, and the black horsehide is through Horween Leathers, which is, I think, Wisconsin. Pretty sure. But Horween makes some incredible horsehide leathers. You can always tell when it's a Horween because it has that top dyed leather with the natural core. And so what it does is it allows, so any scuffing or marking or abrasion marks, the brown will start poking through that black. And that's just another feature that I like about, many people also agree with you know, being attracted to this black horsehide leather, or any of the horsehides that Horween makes. It's got that same feature. So, yeah, man, I'm gonna go through the video. Hopefully my angles were correct and you guys were able to see everything here. And check me out on Instagram if you'd like, ANG_X_change. Valuable content only. Alright guys, have a good one.